instead of like looking at life like you're the victim. And it just gives you different tools to be able to live life from a day-to-day basis, and changing that mindset from more of a less of a victimized mindset to more of a, well, how can I overcome this? How can I tackle my day and be the best that I can be every single day?
And welcome back to another episode of Attractive Mindset. And today's guest is individual. She was speaking a lot of knowledge. The first time that I ran into her, it was a group of highly skilled individuals. She was on a panel, and just everything she was talking about, everything she stands for, how she talks on her stories, her lifestyle, just amazing. I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit more about herself. We got Miss Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome.
My name is Kathy Jopis. I am a licensed mental health therapist. I am the founder of Be the Change Mental Health, which is essentially a mental health facility with a focus on anxiety issues, depression. We also work with individuals in foster care, providing them services. Just to talk a little bit about that, as you guys may or may not know, individuals who are in foster care are really limited to the services that they can receive through the community-based agencies. Sometimes they'll come into or transition into a new home, and unfortunately, they're placed on like 3 to 4 months wait list. So by providing those services through my business, Be the Change Mental Health, we're able to limit them and get them services within 3 to 4 days.
Beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything that you do for the community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Kathy, let's go back a little bit. Where are you from originally?
So I was born in Dominican Republic.
Okay.
My family is from DR. My dad is Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
And I came here when I was 3.
Okay.
So I was the child of an immigrant mom and dad. Dad migrated from Cuba, mom and I from Dominican Republic. Definitely like the true American story, where you just come here for a better life and trying to uproot your family to make a way and change generations.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So DR in the building. K-Lo-K. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So you came straight to Miami.
Yes. So
Got
straight to Miami. Been here my whole life ever since.
Got it. So growing up in Miami, what is that like for a young Kathy?
So growing up, I was raised by both of my parents. And unfortunately, just growing up, I had to endure a large amount of trauma at a very young age, which motivated me to pursue a degree in mental health counseling. So what that looked like was me being transitioned out of my home due to, some abuse that was going on, and landed me pregnant at 16 in a group home. One of my children passed away at birth, and I learned what depression was like for the first time. And I was suicidal. I had depression. I had anxiety. Then I was also isolated from my family. And so just from that very young age and all those things that occurred to me, I had to learn what mental health was, what it looked like, how I can better myself, and how I can get out of this deep, dark hole that I suddenly found myself in.
Wow. So this is exactly why I like to have this kind of podcast, because, you look at social media and you see what is present day, and you would never know that people deal with these kind of things, but not only deal with them, but actually triumph them and teach others how to get past that, or, get through that as well. And so, you dealing with this around 16 years old, what are some of the thoughts that are going through your head, mentally, just like, perseverance wise?
So mentally, I would describe depression as just very, and this is non-clinical, just the non-clinical description of what depression looked like for me at the time was not eating, sleeping. I was angry all the time. And I remember that being my primary emotion. And for a lot of us, anger is our primary emotion when we can't describe or find the description to express how we really feel. It's anger. We are mad at the world. We're mad at each other. We're finding ways to use other people that we encounter as punching bags.
Mm.
And that's exactly what it looked like for me. It looked like anyone that I would encounter would encounter the angry Kathy, the one that didn't care, the one that would find any reason to hurt you, because essentially hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what that looked like at that time. And so
Wow.
when people hear me probably say that, they're like, not you? Like where? How? So yeah, I would describe it as definitely very, very angry. That was definitely a primary emotion, like I said, as it is for most people, especially men.
Wow. That's a lot. And you said something
Yeah.
super key with not you, how, because
Yeah.
we're forced to change over
Yeah.
time, and I can relate to that super heavy from
Yeah.
growing up in Brooklyn and being in the
Mhm.
hood, and
Yeah.
the version of myself that I am now is completely different from
Oh
what I
yeah.
was before, and being homeless and having to figure things out and transitioning, being at a mental state that is not stable, and traversing life like that, to coming into a different type of picture and seeing that now. So when you're dealing with this, at what point did you say, I have to make a change?
I got really, really tired of waking up every day and just feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling mad at the world. And I didn't want to victimize myself anymore.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, the world, the way that I think I looked at the world then was the world is against me. Nothing can go right for me. And so it wasn't. Like, it's the law of attraction. Like, that's how you feel. That is exactly what you're going to receive. Because if you're automatically telling yourself, nothing good will happen to me, what do you think will happen? Nothing good will happen to you. It's not until a mental change occurs that you realize, damn, like I need to, this isn't productive to me. This doesn't help me. And once you start realizing that good things are meant to happen to me, good things can happen to me, and you start reframing those negative thoughts, then I think that's really the start, and that's when you'll start true change, which is essentially how I came up with the name Be the Change Mental Health.
And so
Yeah.
at what age, or did you go to college to study some of the things that you studied?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I had to do my associates, bachelor's. I always knew I was going to be a therapist. So I never changed majors. I never had a situation where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I was like, this is tunnel vision. I'm going to do it because this is what I want. And that's how I approach life, period. Like this, if there's something that I want, there's nothing that's going to get in my way. And of course I had to do my master's in mental health counseling to be able to obtain licensure and so forth.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So on the journey through just going from, associates, bachelor's, master's towards being a master at mental health, there's a stipulation that therapists can just take it all, take it all in, take everybody's, stuff, friends and family. And so what kind of things do you have to go through in order to really separate yourself from a friends and family category?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us, especially those that are looked up upon from others as strong, like that strong friend, that one that you can call for anything. I think we need to put a lot of like those healthy boundaries in place. Like, no, you cannot call me for everything. I particularly enjoy do not disturb. I am the do not disturb queen. And so if I'm home, my phone will go on do not disturb, including my business phone. I'll have someone answer that. But essentially, I think we need to put really, really good boundaries in place with the people, even the people that we love, even our friends and families, because especially when we're not in the best emotional state. I always tell people, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to be able to fill your cup and then be able to pour into someone else. Otherwise, anything that you pour into will not be effective. It won't be coming from the heart. You're going to be depleted. And people know when you just saying things just to say it. They know when you're not feeling at your best. And you don't feel at your best. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're depleting yourself. You're depleting your energy. And so I definitely recommend and suggest for anyone who is that strong friend, check on yourself first. Be there for yourself first. Fill your cup first. Wake up in the mornings, do your routine, there's no such thing as I want to help everybody else, but I can't help myself. You're a hypocrite
Mm.
if that's the case. Like straight up. So definitely set those healthier boundaries and put yourself first always, so that you can be able to be there for others in the way that they may want you to, and in the way that you have the capacity to. So
Amazing. Okay. And so now you chose a path that most people still don't choose, and that's like becoming an entrepreneur, but in your excellence of what you do. And so
yeah.
what made you want to create your own thing instead of just going towards somebody else's?
So automatically when I got out of my master's program, I knew I didn't want to work for anyone.
Mm.
I knew that. But the way that our field is set up, you have to go into like community-based care. And what that looks like for us therapists is you're getting paid maybe $25 to $30 an hour.
Mm.
And it sounds like a lot, but in comparison to what they make, they're probably making a good $100 to $200 an hour off of you.
Wow.
And so you're really selling yourself short, because a day in the life of a therapist doesn't look like a full 8-hour day. It looks like if you see any more than 4 or 5 clients, you're tired.
Mm.
Like, can you imagine having conversations with people for hours, long and back to back and back? Like, you can't do 8-hour days like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to make a decent living, that's what, at $30 an hour, that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And I knew automatically that wasn't for me. I knew that I wanted to help people, but I wanted to do it in the capacity where I was putting myself first.
Mm.
So straight out of my master's program, I opened my private practice, fully virtual, and I decided that entrepreneurship was the way to go. I didn't believe in working for anyone else. I believed that if I wanted to make the impact in the way that I did, I needed to be at 100% for my clients, not for them to come to therapy and realize, well, damn, like, who am I talking to? Because I could tell she's tired. She's not even present.
Mm.
She sounds like a robot. And I didn't want my clients to experience that from me. I was always big on, I want to give you 100% of me, because that's what you deserve. That's what you came in here for.
Mm.
I'm going to give you 100. You're going to give me 100. And this is what we're going to do. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay. So walk us through, and the people that don't really understand what therapy is or what therapy is supposed to do for you. What exactly is a session like?
So anyone that wants to obtain mental health counseling, essentially, it looks like you coming into either a virtual space or in person. And really you come in there to discuss your goals. What is it that you want to work on? What is it that is stopping you from achieving the place in life or the feelings or emotional stability that you want to be able to achieve? And then we're working towards what you've identified. So I look at myself as a guide. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to, as everybody may think, we're here to give advice. It's not about that. It's we're the guide. We're guiding you to being your greatest and highest self, and giving you the tools that you need, because a lot of times we don't have the tools. We know that we're depressed. We know that we're anxious, but we're like, damn, like, I'm in this dark hole. I don't know how to get myself out of it. I've been stuck here for a while, and that's exactly what it looks like. Can't get myself out of bed. Or even if for those high performers, right, those high functioning individuals who have high functioning depression or anxiety, it looks like them overworking themselves, trying to bury themselves into work as a form of distracting, so that they can suppress their emotions and their feelings, and they ain't got to deal with it. And so a lot of us do that, especially entrepreneurs, where we hide our feelings, we hide them, and we bury ourselves into our work. So essentially, I look at myself like your guide, giving you the tools, giving you the resources, your biggest motivator, your biggest supporter. That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. And so, when it gets shown from the movie, when somebody goes to counseling or therapy, it's always an older individual. So do you ever get pushback from older individuals that you deal with, that they're like, oh, you're young, you don't know what you're talking about, or anything in that kind of way?
I've never gotten that yet. And I think it just goes to show, of course, I don't know everything. If I knew everything, I don't think there would be a reason to live anymore. And I'd be like, well, what's the purpose? Like, the key to life is knowledge,
Mm.
learning, growing, experiencing. But I haven't had an opportunity to experience that. But that's okay. If I ever did, that's fine, because we're not a good fit. And that's
Mm.
important in therapy. It has to be a good fit for the both of us. And so if you come to a consultation with me and I don't feel like it's a match, or I feel like, yeah, I don't know, our personalities may not click, I know I may not be effective because our personalities are just not a match. And
Mhm.
that's okay. So I don't think I've had an instance where someone has said, well, I think you're too young. But yeah, probably do look young.
Got
So
it.
I think knowledge speaks for itself, no matter the age. And once you speak to them and you're relatable and you show compassion and you show that you care, and you also give them tools and resources, I don't even think the age matters.
Got
And I
it.
have a lot of clients who are like older, maybe 55 up to 65 years old, and we do a lot of work. We do great work together.
Mm. And so how long does somebody actually work with you? What's like the journey that they go on with you, and how long do they usually stay with you to see optimal results?
Uh, it really varies on the mental health condition, because some conditions, unfortunately, like personality disorders, they're really, really hard to treat.
Mm.
And so it can look like anywhere from 6 months up to maybe 3 years. It really
Mm.
just depends. We're definitely not here to support you for a lifetime,
Yeah.
because then we're enabling you and we're not really guiding you. Now you're super reliant on us, and we're not giving you the tools and resources that you need to be able to do life on your own, because sometimes we have to let you go at some point. You're like, we say, hey, I think you're okay now. Like, how do you feel? Are you
Mm.
good? Like, where do you feel like you're at right now? Do you feel like you need additional support, or are you okay?
Mm.
And so there is a discharge process for every client, but again, it depends on the mental health condition or diagnosis, and it also depends on what you put in, because what you put in is what you're going to get out. If
Mm.
you come to therapy and you want to play around with people's time and waste your money, that's on you. You wasting your time.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
And so at what point do you say I need to scale this business, or how does, do you call it like a practice?
Yeah.
How does a practice get scaled?
So with a mental health practice, we would provide groups. I'm actually in the process of converting it into a group practice.
Got
So
it.
I just hired my first therapist, my clinical
Hey.
director, and very, very soon we're onboarding interns. And so essentially what that would look like is we have a team of providers, obviously providing mental health services to the community, but it would alleviate me as the founding director from having to provide services on my own, and I'll move into more of a supervisory role,
Mhm.
or very similar to like a coach, guiding you, providing you resources as well. And so the more providers that you have, the more services you'll bill for, which means the more revenue you'll create as well.
Got it. Okay. And so, yeah, I see you do a lot of different events, and you talk to a lot of, the youth. And
Yeah.
so in you doing that, how do you get to what's the word that I want to use? How do you get to a conversation where as an adult, it's already a difficult conversation, but you compress that for a young mind to understand?
With the young adults, or the even teenagers or even children, you have to really meet them where they're at. And what that means is essentially like, okay, so right now you don't understand what healthy boundaries look like. Like,
Mhm.
let's work that out. Let me educate you. Or sometimes it even looks like you making the mistakes and then coming back and telling me, hey, Miss Kathy, I messed up,
Mm.
and me providing support to you, and then saying, well, what do you think we could have done differently? So of course, it's providing a non-judgmental space, supporting you in whatever you need support in, and guiding you, giving you the tools, giving you those resources that you need to be able to excel, so that the goal is that we're not making the same mistakes over and over again. We're actually learning from what those mistakes were. that's the goal of life, period. So essentially it would be very similar to the adult where, we still make mistakes, we're still trying to learn.
Mhm.
The young minds are very similar to that. They're just maybe a little bit less mature in the sense, and maybe a little less determined to want to pour into their mental health.
Absolutely. And so at what point does somebody say, or can somebody, or should somebody decide, I need counseling, or I need, therapy to that end? Because I know a lot of things happen in self-reflection, and of course, and I studied psychology as well. I didn't I dropped out, but the
Yeah.
brain plasticity, and all of that kind of things, and having that molding of thoughts and experiences. And when does somebody say, hey, I can't do it myself, this is what I should do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really just depends on what you feel when you wake up in the morning. Whether there's a lack of motivation, whether you feel like it's a little harder for you to complete those tasks, if you find yourself crying a lot, or if you feel like you're emotionally depleted or unavailable. I always tell people, look at the relationships around you. Like, what do they tell
Mhm.
you? Because oftentimes the relationships that we keep are mirrors, or and reflections of the things that we're experiencing, or the things that we haven't even healed from, rather.
Mm.
And so if the relationships around you are failing and you're surrounding yourself with chaos, or I'm having so much conflict with everyone around me, I would definitely recommend, hey, well, what is it? Because you're clearly going through a lot right now. What is it that what energy are you giving off to others? What is it that you may need to work on so you can welcome and embrace healthier relationships? So I would definitely look at first how you're feeling, and then obviously secondly looking at the relationships that you keep. Are they toxic relationships? Are they healthy ones? And definitely make a decision. Do I want to stay this way? Am I okay with waking up every day and living the life that I'm living? And
Mhm.
so for most people, they're not okay. For most people, they're like, I'm tired of feeling this way. I need a change. And so you really need to make a decision for yourself and understand that life can be peaceful, life can be blissful, life can be enjoyed. It doesn't have to be lived in misery. It doesn't have to be you lacking motivation, not being able to work, not being able to concentrate, losing jobs or losing opportunities, or having toxic friendships or relationships. Like, it should be the opposite of all of that.
Mhm.
And so, when I tell people all the time, like, you have to decide that good is waiting for you, and that you are meant for the goodness that this life has to offer you. But you got to feel it. You got to feel it, and you have to believe it, and then you have to work hard to be able to get that feeling that you're striving to receive.
Absolutely. Said a whole mouthful just now. That's amazing. And so, who would be the supporter of the support?
Oh, that's a good question. For the strong friend, it is one of those things where, because we are everything to everyone, sometimes it is hard to ask for help.
Mhm.
And sometimes I have to get out of my comfort zone, and I have to be place myself in a vulnerable state, and say, you know what, I'm struggling right now. And I check in, we check in with each other a lot.
Mhm.
Right? I feel like, how you doing? How you feeling? Are you good? And so if you guys have a strong friend, check in with your strong friend. How are you doing? How you feeling? Give them a call, see how they doing, because a lot of times it's really, really hard for them to be able to ask for help, especially when they need it, because we're everything to everyone, and that can get really, really exhausting sometimes. But we know that, I think what we do is we feel bad for asking for
Mhm.
help because we're the ones that people call on. So in our heads, it's like, damn, like, I know you got a lot going on. Why would I want to burden you with my own trauma or my own grief or the things that I'm going through? But the truth is that it shouldn't be like that, because just as you're able to support others, you should be willing to receive just as much too.
Mhm.
And so I've gotten really, really good at saying, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm not feeling good right now. And being honest with ourselves, because we lie a lot. People say, hey, how you doing? And our natural response is, I'm good,
Mhm.
knowing damn well we're struggling. And so I want us to be able to change that narrative and be honest with ourselves and understand that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. Vulnerability is a sign of strength.
Mm.
There's strength in vulnerability. There's strength in telling someone, hey, I'm not doing good right now. And then you, as the supporting friend, can ask, well, what do you need me to do to support you? How can I be there for you? How can I help you through whatever it is that you're going through? What do you need from me? Because sometimes what they may need is your advice. Sometimes what they may need is just a listening ear.
Mhm.
So being okay, not only to say I'm not doing okay, but at telling people how they can support you.
Absolutely. Wow. That's amazing. And so I was so caught up in what you were saying. I had a question at the beginning of it and it completely lost. But that's powerful because I also get looked at as the strong friend.
I know.
And
Yeah.
and in being the strong friend, it's hard to get vulnerable sometimes, and it's hard to be, just present around the same ones who constantly,
Yeah.
say, hey, I need your help with this or that, or et cetera, et cetera. And so if you had to, no, I don't even want to go there yet. So, being out of college, how long ago did you graduate?
I graduated in 2019.
And so from 2019 to now, are there any books that you've read or any additional material or influences that you've had to also add to your style?
Oh yeah, I love reading. So I think for anyone that's interested in learning more about psychology as a whole, I recommend The Laws of Human Behavior. That's an amazing book.
Hmm.
I think it teaches you a lot about, people and the way that they communicate, the way that they think. It teaches us how not to take things personal. And so that's one of my favorite books on psychology. I also love the Four Agreements. And so with that book specifically, it just teaches you the way of life, like not to judge certain things, and to be patient with yourself, to be able to pour into yourself instead of like looking at life like you're the victim. And it just gives you different tools to be able to live life from a day-to-day basis, and changing that mindset from more of a less of a victimized mindset to more of a, well, how can I overcome this? How can I tackle my day and be the best that I can be every single day? So
Absolutely. And okay, so this is what I was going to say originally. How were you able to create that, almost persona where you have the work version of yourself, but you also enjoy yourself once you go home?
that's a great question. So what would it be like when, like, to set those boundaries for myself, right?
Hmm.
Essentially, so that I don't have to mix the two of them together.
Correct.
It's really, really hard. But what that looks like is a lot of self care, and being able to put those boundaries in place and saying, you know what, after 5 o'clock, I'm not working. I'm not seeing clients. Being really, really firm as to who I give access to me, tends to not disturb, not returning phone calls if I just don't feel like it, and being okay with that and not feeling guilty about that.
Hmm.
Because again, I don't have to be everything for everybody.
Absolutely.
I have to be there for myself, and I value that. I value my self-care time. I value my me time. I value learning myself. I value spending time with my daughter. And so I prioritize that a lot because I know that if I'm not good and I feel depleted, I'm not going to be of service to anyone.
Mm.
And so, in the sense, I'm gifting myself with self love, but I'm gifting the people that love me and that need my assistance from time to time as well, because they get the fully charged Kathy, not the one that's tired and emotionally drained and exhausted and really doesn't have much to say, or that's giving you the short end of the stick. It's either I give you all of it or I give you none of it. And if I don't have any to give, I'm not going to try to put myself on a negative.
Mm.
I'm not.
So influencing your daughter in this kind of way, which is very healthy, very, it's a good path to be on. There's always a battle that comes up when it comes to how we were raised and
Mhm.
how we came up versus how we raise our children and everything. I don't have
Yes.
kids yet, but you know, it's almost like a double-edged sword is what it
Oh
seems
yeah.
like, because
Yeah.
we became the versions of ourselves because of that level of struggle or that level of, things that we dealt with back then versus, now
Yeah,
it's a lot easier for the younger generation to maybe take things for granted or not see
absolutely.
the actual bigger picture of
Yeah.
things. And so when it comes to your daughter, how do you feel she follows what you're trying to really do, and do you want her to follow your footsteps in that kind of way?
I definitely am a firm believer that I have to lead by example in all that I do, because I do have a lot of people that look up to me. And I want, especially my daughter. And so the biggest thing is her being able to see like my routine in the morning, what that looks like. And so, just as an example, I'm very big on not engaging in any form of social media or anything that's really not pouring into your soul or spirit in the
Mhm.
morning. So, in the morning, she's listening to affirmations.
Mm.
And so I have them playing in the background for her. And even if, she may not be entirely excited about participating, I believe that you can feel in the subconscious mind with those things,
Absolutely.
and eventually you're gonna really understand it, and this is gonna be a part of your daily life. And so one of my biggest things is holding her accountable. And what that looks like is me saying, well, if I do catch, you on the phone listening to YouTube videos that are pointless, or TikTok or whatever, I'm like, hey, is that productive?
Mhm.
Are we doing something that's productive? Like, what are you doing right now that's actually going to be productive to the person that you want to be tomorrow? And it's constantly reminding her, and I know she probably thinks I'm annoying, but it's constantly reminding her of, hey, let's sit down, let's work on our goals. What are your goals right now? What does that look like for you? What can you do right now to get you to where you want to be tomorrow?
Mhm.
So, I'd say I encourage all the parents to talk to your children as often as possible about their goals. And if they don't have any, if they don't have passions, well, then we need to work on identifying that passion early on. My
Mhm.
daughter knew she wanted to be a veterinarian since she was 4.
Mm.
And so, ever since she was 4 years old, I'm buying veterinarian toys. I'm taking her to animal shelters. We're volunteering at animal shelters. We're going out in the community and feeding cats and stray dogs. And, we're just doing all these things to continue to pour into what that goal looks like for you. And on a mental health perspective, on a mental health side, it's me continuously living by what I preach
Mm.
at home, because I can't be a therapist and then I have a toxic home or a toxic living environment. It looks like a lot of love. It looks like reaffirming your child every chance that I can get. It looks like being present, even if it means that I'm tired, but trying my best to be as present as I possibly can and giving you my undivided attention, even if I am exhausted.
Mm.
I think a lot of us grew up with maybe parents that worked a lot, or maybe were just emotionally unavailable because they had their own things going on. But it's really just, hey, how you doing? How are you? Are you okay? What do you need from me? Like, how was school? And being consistent with it.
Absolutely. And so being, single parent,
Single parent.
and so and having that single parent home structure, do you feel that extra pressure that you have to feel like you overcompensate for, or does it become a conversation that you invite your daughter to have with you as navigating those waters, like, hey, I'm only one person, but I'm here and I'm doing the best that I can?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Actually, we have those conversations all the time, because sometimes I'm not going to be my best, and I'm okay with apologizing. I think a lot of times, especially old school parents, they don't apologize to their kids. Like, they be screaming to the top of their lungs early in the morning, sending the kids off to school mad, and they don't apologize.
Mhm.
And so I'm a big firm believer that if you mess up, you're an adult, apologize to your children.
Mhm.
It's healing for them. Then if you don't, and you keep sweeping things under the rug, and you keep hurting them and treating them as a punching bag because you're having a bad day, eventually they're going to resent you for it. And so that loving little girl or little boy, when they get their teens, guess what? All that built up anger that has been suppressed for so long is going to come out and haunt you. And now it's like, Oh, I don't know why he's so angry or she's so angry all the time or she always got attitude. Well, baby, you never apologized for hurting them all those times. All those times you would send them to school angry because you was yelling in the morning,
Mm.
or you would criticize them constantly, or it's so many things that we as parents can do because we're not perfect, right? Which is essentially why we have to go to therapy, because nobody is perfect. We're all dealing with our own mental health battles.
Facts.
But I think having children make us be more determined, or should make us be more determined, to say, you know what, I don't want to repeat those generational traumas, those things that I done been through as a child, the things that I hate my parents for. I want to do better, so I have to do better. I want to be better. I have to go to therapy. And so it may not even be therapy, right? It can be, I'm taking some time in the morning to self-reflect, journal, look at the things that I got to work on, and try to change those behaviors and understand that, you don't need to react to everything. A lot of people say, well, they pissed me off. Well, why did you allow them to piss you off? Because you have options. You have choices. And so it's one of those choices is waking up and being 1% better every day, but making a conscious effort to do so, right?
Absolutely. And so everything you've said, and I don't know if people really understand how deep it goes, is you've mentioned a healthy balance of self, but also a healthy balance of growth and consistency. But, as Carol Dweck, created Fixed and Growth Mindset,
Yeah.
having that kind of structure, how does somebody find that healthy balance truly of just, hey, I got to do more. I got to get up. I got to be better. I got to do this without facing burnout, without facing exhaustion, without facing all of those things, but still saying, hey, I'm going to stand firm on these principles. And I know I have innate talent that I need to bring out, and I need to double down on these things that are already within me instead of chasing something else.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely always suggest being patient with yourself, giving yourself grace, keeping those goals, maybe outline on a whiteboard and then checking them off. I have this whiteboard, and my daughter, it was the time where I was learning more patience, right? Because I evaluate myself all the time, and I put learn more patience on my whiteboard. And so one day, it was the funniest thing. My daughter came in the room and she said, I think we can cross this off now. You've been really good at being patient. And so she crossed it off. And then there was maybe it was 3-4 months later, I lost my patience with her, and I was kind of rushing her to do something. And she's like, you know what? I think we still need to work on this. So I'm going to uncheck this. So, cause you still have some work to do. And I bust out laughing because I'm like, wow, you really trying me right now. But I was like, okay, you holding me accountable, and it's not just holding yourself accountable, but also being patient with yourself and understand that it's a journey. It's not a destination. You can't just wake up every day and say, you know what, today all my feelings of depression or anxiety are going to go away. It doesn't work like that. It takes small habits to build greater ones. And so during that process, during that journey, the moments of gratitude and self-love that you give yourself every single day is what's going to keep you going. Because the truth and the reality is you're not perfect, and you're not here to be perfect. What you can do is be 1% better every day. And so taking those little small steps every day to achieve the ultimate goal, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's learning more patience, stop being a procrastinator, or work on your procrastination rather. Because procrastination is still going to exist. You're never going to just stop it completely. Sometimes you just don't feel like it. So you're going to delay certain things, but understanding that your goal is never to be perfect. It's just to be better than what you were. And so I encourage anyone who is on their, healing journey, or just their betterment journey, rather, just give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, give yourself love, and make sure that you have a level of self-awareness where you're holding yourself accountable, but you're not beating yourself up while you're doing it.
Amazing. And, I want to touch on something that you also mentioned, and you often show through your social media, is the connection that you have with your daughter. For a lot of other young parents out here, how do you maintain such a connection to where she understands that you're still mom and not friend. And, there's a lot of conversations that you might post where, even at her young age, she's very conscious of what she's saying. She said things like, look, and don't say no, and I know you're gonna do this, but she comes to you with a
Yeah.
valid point. And even in moments of holding you accountable like she just did, how or what should people focus on, especially the younger parents, that allow them to have that connection without getting upset at their child for doing that?
It's I believe in giving them the autonomy to be who they are, not what we want them to be. And so I had to learn that the hard way. And, I was blessed with such a self determined daughter, and she just knew, like, she's very stubborn. So I had to learn, like, I can't make you who I want you to be. I have to accept you as who you are. And once again, I just had to learn that. I had to learn who I was dealing with, my child. And so I say, for those parents, especially those young parents who are trying to make their children into something that they like, the ideal child, it's non-existent. You have to meet them where they're at, but also embrace the relationship by nurturing them, caring for them, loving them, not criticizing them as much, because I think criticism is the number one thing that kills self-esteem. And so now you're creating by constantly telling the child, well, why do you walk like this? Why did you do that? And never giving them any positive reinforcement or any affirmation or, hey, you did a good job today. Like, you're kind of breaking them down little by little, and so I say, try to be as motivational as you can. Try to affirm them as much as you can. If they did something good, compliment them. And if they did something bad, say, hey, I noticed that you did this and this. What do you think we can learn from this? What do you think we can do better? What do you think we can do differently? And creating that space where they can come to you, but it's a safe space when they do, because they know that mom or dad is not going to beat me down for it emotionally. So be your child's safe space. Give them that peace of mind and knowing, you know what, I can come to mom with anything because I know she's going to receive me or he's going to receive me. And I know that they're not going to beat me down emotionally more than I already feel down and out about.
Amazing. And what would be one key piece of advice that you give somebody, navigating their own mental health and just the topic of mental health? Well, let's split it into two. So somebody that wants to get into the mental health field and somebody that needs to seek mental health.
So for someone that's wanting to get into the mental health field and pursue a career as a mental health profession, I definitely recommend doing your own work first, because the worst thing that we want to do is provide a space where now we're trying to heal other people from their traumas, but then we're being triggered. And so definitely do your work first. Seek professional help. Practice what you preach, right? And I think that's definitely the first step for sure.
And then what about people that, should seek mental help?
So if you're someone that's struggling with a mental health condition, or you simply, don't know if you have an actual diagnosis, you just know, I don't feel good. I haven't felt like myself in years. I'm constantly worrying all the time, or I'm constantly sad, or I have a lack of motivation, or even if it looks like I'm burying myself in work, and I know that I have so many suppressed emotional trauma or childhood traumas even, then I'm ready to work on this, but I don't know how. I say, ask for help, seek professional help, go see a therapist. And even if it's not a therapist, talk to a friend. I know friends may not always give the best advice, which is why essentially we should seek professional advice. But if you don't have a place to start, definitely start with doing some self-reflection. What is it that you want to work on? What is it that you want to feel like? What is it that, you want to be able to achieve? And look at it like, well, what am I losing, or what am I risking if I don't do this work? And the reality is you're risking a lot, because you're not feeling your best self. And that's a loss on its own. You're missing out on blissful moments with your families. You're missing out on opportunities spent laughing or really enjoying yourself, or even for a lot of people, they bury themselves into drugs or alcohol, trying to hide their pain, trying to hide their traumas, and that's not a life to live. So definitely get help if you need it. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's never a sign of weakness. What's a weakness is when you don't do anything about it, and then you think you can deal with it on your own, and instead you're burying yourself into drugs or alcohol or even work.
Mm. Gems, 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 gems. Kathy, this was amazing. Thank you for coming on here and just sharing some of your story, sharing what you do every day and sharing your insight to, just being a well-rounded individual, from taking that time to have self-care, because you definitely take that
I
time.
sure do.
And also still remaining professional in what you do and
Yeah.
doing it great, but also being that role model figure for your daughter. And so if people wanted to find out more about your business or work with you, where could they find all of that?
So you can follow me on Instagram at Be the Change Mental Health. My personal Instagram is kept_by_faith. And you can also go to our website at BeTheChangeMentalHealth.com. You can schedule a free consultation on there. We provide services to anyone that's struggling with a mental health condition, or even those that are not and just want to, or that are high performers and just want to better themselves, whether professionally, emotionally, and tap into their greater self. You can definitely reach out to us.
Absolutely. Kathy, again, thank you for coming on the Attractive Mindset Show. And as you can see, she has a clearly attractive mindset. And, just make sure you tap in, check out everything she has going on. She's always doing events, always around, always not always accessible, but she's there if you need her. And so definitely just check in, see what she got going. Make sure you like, share, subscribe this episode with somebody that needs to hear it. And just stay tapped in. And it's your host, Moneybag Rich. And as we always say, we look good, we live good, life is good. Talk to us, we talk back, and we out of here.